This is modern day Tanis, but let's go back to the year 760 BC, to a time when ancient Egypt is plagued by internal conflicts and turmoil. Visit a place to have the only undisturbed tombs with all its treasures intact? Well, that's until archaeologists discover it and take everything away. Welcome to Ancient Tanis in 760 BC. This is Egypt, the Nile Delta. Here is the absolute mess that is the Third Intermediate Period, and here is Tanis. So what's the story behind Tanis and its pharaohs? So let's go back to the 13th century BC to meet the pharaoh Ramesses II. He decides he wants to build a brand new capital city called Ramesses, meaning the house of Ramesses. His city gets built, but many years later there's a problem. The branch of the Nile it sits on starts to silt up, meaning all the monuments have to be taken down brick by brick and transported to a new location a short distance away. Ramesses in effect would be reassembled, but now rebranded as Tanis. As the 20th dynasty makes way for the 21st dynasty, the pharaohs decided to move their centre of power to Tanis, to focus on priorities, in effect turning their backs on the old capital Thebes. Now Thebes was in effect still the capital of Egyptian law, the army and religion, meaning the priests there became really annoyed, rose up and took power for themselves, and created a rival capital city. Through this rivalry and chaos, ancient Egypt fragmented and split into two states. Back in Thebes, all things pharaoh were banned, so when it came to death time, there was a slight problem, as the traditional burial sites were now off limits. After some long hard thinking, the 21st dynasty pharaohs decided to transform Tanis into a royal capital and burial site. Skilled craftsmen and precious materials flowed into Tanis to create some of the greatest tombs in all of Egypt, filled with treasures of gems, gold and silver, and that's why the rulers of this time are called the Silver Pharaohs. Now in 1939, when it was all discovered, why were the tombs big news? Probably because something else was happening. So, what to see in ancient Tanis? Come see the colossal statue of Ramesses, which dominates the city skyline, carved out of a single solid block of stone. When completed, it weighed roughly 1,000 tons and stood at 80 foot tall. As possibly the biggest statue in the ancient world, it dwarfed all other ancient Egyptian statues, and was about the size of the Statue of Liberty from head to toe. Dominating the inner city is the ceremonial complex of the Temple of Amun. Within its grounds there's a sacred lake, smaller temples such as this one devoted to Horus, and then there's the royal necropolis. Now unlike most Egyptian royal tombs, the ones at Tanis were unusually located well protected within the city centre. And over the years, these tombs were filled with priceless gold and silver treasures of pharaohs such as Susanes, Shoshenq II and Amenemopi. And the pharaohs of this time are also known for their eagle-headed sarcophagi. So what to see outside of Tanis? Travel to the year 550 BC to sample some Greek culture in Egypt, over at Naucratis. So centuries ago, a band of Greek pirates were sailing the Mediterranean, until they were blown off course by a powerful and violent storm. They got stranded in Egypt, where they ended up in the service of the pharaohs, as a kind of royal guard. As the years went by, more and more Greeks came to and settled in Egypt. Eventually, for their service, the pharaoh granted them the city of Naucratis. As more people arrived from all over the ancient Greek world, Naucratis became an important trading post, exchanging Egyptian papyrus, grain and linen for Greek wood, silver and wines. At its height from the 6th century BC, Naucratis became a thriving bastion of Greek culture within Egypt. But all this would change when the Hellenic Ptolemaic kingdom was established, and their capital of Alexandria became a centre of Greek trade, knowledge and culture, which of course means Naucratis would decline. After years of neglect, Naucratis, much like Tanis, would become forgotten to the sands of time. Okay, what are the final scores for Tanis? Temples, gigantic statues and treasures all by the banks of the Nile, it's getting a 4. So if you wanted to be branded a Silver Pharaoh, if you think gigantic over-the-top statues are the best, or just think Tutankhamun gets way too much attention, then Ramesses, Tanis, is the place for you.